When Panasonic introduced the GH5 in 2016, they set new standards in terms of filming with a mirrorless camera that day. With 4K 60 FPS recording and 10-bit color depth, the GH5 was way ahead of the competition at that time. Now Panasonic has introduced a new GH6, the successor of the famous GH5. So the question is, does it set new standards again? Well, we can find out in this video coming up. Many thanks at this point to Panasonic Germany, who have provided me this camera on loan. Nothing was paid, and as always, my opinion of the camera is absolutely my own. I would say we work our way from the outside in and start with the body. The body is very well made, it feels nice in the hand. The display on the back is 7.5 centimeters, swivel and flip monitor. The buttons on the wheels have a very good haptic and feel high quality. On the front, in addition to the lens mount, we find a separate record button, a record LED that lights up when recording is in progress, and a port to transfer external timecode to the camera. The horseshoe mount allows you to connect a XLR adapter for better audio quality. In addition, the GH6 has a full-size HDMI port, a USB-C port for recording external SSD, as well as charging the camera, and under two separate covers, a 3.5mm headphone jack and a 3.5mm microphone jack. The GH6 has also received a new 25MP MFT sensor, which allows shooting up to 5.7K at 30 FPS. In addition, a new processor has been installed that is more powerful than the one in the US one. Thanks to the new processor, the GH5 can now record internally in ProRes, which is a really nice feature, since otherwise you always needed an external recorder. So ProRes 422 simplifies also the post-production workflow with a high-quality codec. The 5-axis in-body image stabilization is once again very good, as you would expect from Panasonic. In direct comparison with the Canon R6, which also has IBIS, I like the footage of the GH6 much better. Both were filmed handheld, and with the Canon R6 you can see the movement on the Z-axis up and down, while the GH6 the movement is almost not visible at all. Also a great point is autofocus. Autofocus has been worked on. It's still a contrast autofocus that is supposed to be faster and better thanks to the new processor. In general, we can say that the autofocus works solidly. It has strong problems, especially when close-up objects are in front of the lens, which it simply does not recognize at all. You also notice that it has problems when tracking faces, as soon as the movement speeds up a bit, the subject is briefly out of focus and it takes the autofocus a while to catch up again. It has definitely improved compared to the GH5, but still it's not the same as Canon or Sony, I would say. In low light, the GH6 is usable up to ISO 3200, which is actually good for Micro Four Thirds. At ISO 6400, the image starts to get very noisy and falls apart. Overall, this is also an improvement compared to the GH5. Let's move on to dynamic range, because the camera has a new mode here. The camera has a dynamic range of 13 plus stops when dynamic range boost setting is activated. Since two ISO values are then saved, and one ISO at 800 and one ISO at 2200, so an HDR image is then created. This is very reminiscent of the dual gain output technology that Canon has in the sensor of the C300 Mark III and C70. You can also notice the difference in dynamic range as seen here. Personally, I would always shoot in dynamic range boost, since the normal mode, the normal dynamic range mode, so to say, is a little bit low for me, which is rated at 12 plus stops of dynamic range. You can see that the camera specializes in video because of slow motion. It can record in 4K up to 120 FPS, and the footage here looks really good. In Full HD, you can record up to 300 FPS also, but you should rather refrain from that. The material is not really usable. So overall, but slow motion is pretty good on the GH6. Rolling shutter is also not a problem with the GH6 because of the small sensor. Currently, a beta firmware is still running on my test device. Panasonic says that they want to continuously develop the software, and so it should eventually be possible, for example, to record directly to an SSD it should be possible to output 4K 120 FPS via HDMI, and with the Atomos Ninja 5 Plus should come via HDMI 4K 120p raw video output. But when this will come, there are still no clear statements, so we will see. Overall, the GH6 is a good camera, but comes too late on the market for me because the specs are good, but also no longer ahead to the competition as the GH5 was at its time. Personally, I would have liked a second threaded screw or other mounting option for a cage, because only one screw is a bit unsecure, I feel. The price of 2,200 euro is not bad, but in a segment I would personally reach for the Panasonic S5 because it has a large full frame sensor, because MFT would be too small for me personally. The footage looks decent, but the image lacks in depth and the overall look that you get to an S35 or full frame sensor. So I hope this video was helpful to you. If you have any further questions, just drop them down in the comments below. You know that game. Don't forget to subscribe to don't miss any of the upcoming content, and I'm gonna see you in my next video. Cheers!